So next up, we have Pauline, and she is the founder of Beyond Talent Management. So she is an HR professional, a very seasoned pro who works with companies to guide them through the ever-changing landscape of employment. So we're continuing on the people theme here and also the beyond theme, right? So basically what happens when we go beyond this idea of silos and having the HR team here and the ops team here and the environment team here and the health and safety team here. Pauline, you were telling me, I mean, you've got 25 years of experience across multiple industries, including heavy civil construction, engineering, consulting, and mining. And you were telling me a little bit that you've seen that HR can get kind of siloed off to the side or sort of dismissed or undervalued. Is that fair to say that that's kind of the starting point of where you sort of found your niche and your impact?
Yeah, it's a great point. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and thank you, Erica. Yeah, it is. What I would say is it's not uncommon, right? It's not uncommon for HR to be in the office working away on the work that they're given. But I just kind of wanted to highlight for a minute about, the role of HR and how it's evolved. And I was able to see it evolve. Back in it wasn't it was the distant, not too distant past. We wanted to be at that table. HR wanted to be there, and we kept hearing about HR being at the table and all these things. And then we saw evidence of in some cases, HR getting to the table and not having a voice. Or not using that as an opportunity, right? HR was known as just the day-to-day tactical, hiring, offer letter, compliance, where you go, in terms of filing a complaint. And HR had this perception of being, on an island to themselves. I know, thinking about it, it sounds like that's an old perception. But in some cases, that still exists, right? You still have HR teams that are in a corporate office that are not at a strategic level yet. They're not completely partnered up with the business. In the last couple of years, we've seen that change. We've seen the expectation change, right? We've seen, HR, the demand on HR professionals to have these new skill sets like change management, transformational readiness, leadership development. And we've seen even business acumen, right? The requirement for HR folks to have business acumen, to be able to make an impactful effect on the business as they continue to grow.
Well, and I can completely understand and empathize, really, because if they're in a role where they're basically just firefighting all the time, they're dealing with complaints, they're listening to people, they're hiring, maybe firing, maybe disciplining, like it could be also just a capacity issue. If there's a certain amount of instability or chaos in the organization, they're sort of dealing with that. And maybe it's hard for them to break outside of that kind of reactive role and get into something that is a little more proactive and getting to help make decisions and be integrated with the core of the business, as you're saying.
It is. You're exactly right. But what I would say, it's difficult to make change from the sideline. So I think that it really starts at the basis of understanding what the challenges are, not only from a corporate perspective, but actually from the employee's perspective. And in my feeling, the only way to do that is actually get out, talk to the employees, get out in cases where I've led teams through major projects in mining with a couple hundred employees, where the organization, the culture of the mine site, of this large mine site, was very different. Than it had its own culture, right? As opposed to what the culture of the company or the organization was. And my stance was, you can't have an impact if you don't understand. And that's where that kind of boots on the ground comes from. It's time to get on the plane, get in your car, get into your jeans, into your hard hat, into your safety boots, get geared up, get on the site and actually understand even understand what the challenges are, but looking at what the opportunities could be. And I will
Mhm.
say, and we've done it, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. But if you approach it from a judgment-free problem solving, you're not here to judge, and it's a matter of, it's not about whose fault it was, but it's about looking at the opportunity and how we can shift things forward.
Yeah.
Eventually you get credibility, right? You gain credibility for showing up and being part of the process. Shouldering, if there's burden, it's shouldered on us too, right? We're we're in it. And from that experience, it does it allows us to actually be part of the solution. That to me is what I consider partnering up with the business, right? In the true sense.
So this is something that you did, maybe discovered yourself over the course of a number of years. You started bridging this gap between the folks in the office and the folks on the ground. You showed up. This is what you were telling me. And tell me about that progression and some of the benefits that you started to notice along the way. How did you know that this boots on the ground, putting in the face time at the site approach was really working?
For sure. I mean, going back years, even at the start of my career, in heavy civil construction, and the thought was always that you have leadership teams. They're talking about what the employees want, what's best for the employees. And somewhere along the line, I would hear small little chatter about that's not actually what the employees want. So I
Mm.
started to go out and talk to the employees and use my lunch hour and my time and drive to mining and not mining at the time it was construction, go to construction sites and start talking to employees and understanding what some of the nuances were. And I would bring that information back to, not as a mole, but with the intention to help out and position differently. And I feel like that gained a lot of ground. So when I started working in engineering consulting, I did the same thing, ear to the ground in that case. But in the mining, it was actually going to the mining sites and building those relationships. And I think other leaders could actually see how HR was actually becoming that true partner, right? When we think about, I always say HR is kind of at the heart of bridging the gap between people and the core function of business, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're positioned quite well, but it's incumbent on the HR team to become, savvy in the business and, be able to, on one hand and the other, be able to roll up your sleeves and get into the mine sites and actually talk with employees, understand what those challenges are, and to be able to make that impact.
That's great. I love the picture you're painting of HR as a true partner within a mining company. So, I mean, you've mentioned a couple of times sort of shouldering the weight or having those skills, having that strength to bring to the day-to-day running of the business and the way that things can fall apart or the ways that they can blossom when that integration is there. So, can you tell us a little bit about the work that your company does now? It almost sounds like you're like a coach to the HR team within a company to help them achieve that level of true partnership with their counterparts.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things, so it's HR consulting, as you mentioned, and I think one of our advantages in my business is a matter of being able to tailor the solutions. So it's not we can customize it to whatever it needs to be. So we serve HR, we serve companies that do not have their own HR, but we
Oh,
also
okay.
work with a lot of organizations that have actually very large teams that either they don't have, they're missing a couple sets of hands. So we serve as to fill some gaps. Sometimes it's knowledge, increased knowledge or even experience. We have HR managers that we work with all the time that are very developed, but they just don't have, that skill set yet. But they're working towards it. And even in terms of a different perspective, sometimes we offer a different perspective. We offer a hands-off perspective. So sometimes organizations will come to me and say, we're not sure what some of the issues are, but there's a couple of things brewing. We think it's this. And then I'll go and actually find it's actually a bigger issue here, but there's lots of
Mm.
opportunity to fix it. So we can customize that. So I help develop the HR team. I bring them along the way. right? So that so that that's something that they can again carry on as the company moves forward in whatever strategic project or initiative that we're working to bring solutions.
That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you for painting a picture of when companies might need you or what types of situations they might partner with you in. I'm curious, does anyone resist this approach? Does anyone sort of like being in the office by themselves and not having that boots on the ground? Like, do you ever get pushback when you tell them that's what they need to do?
Absolutely. And I do, because it may not be natural, and it's uncomfortable, right? It may not, it's not natural. And you know, we've gotten our education, we've gotten our designation, and nowhere along the way did someone say that you may have to put on hard hats and you know, hard hat and some boots. But I think it's very difficult to understand what's happening with your employees, with the team. HR still has that, you know, still has that responsibility as being the leader of people, and that means all people. And yes, Tiffany, that's every person included coming into the organization and currently working in the organization. And you know, it is pushing people out of their comfort zone, and some individuals did not sign up for that, and that's okay, because I've seen different makeup of teams where there are individuals that actually want and welcome you know, that experience. But from a even a general understanding, if you go to site, you learn about people, but you also learn about the business. You learn about the
Mhm.
personalities, you learn about exactly, you know, what they're mining or what the challenges are. I think it's enriching, and usually I can work to you know, different team members, right? Or I can take on a portion of it for them and bring the knowledge back. But eventually they see that you know, they see that how valuable it is, that a lot of times they want to experience that.
Yeah. And I can only imagine, it's reminding me of the conversation we had with Susan Lomas yesterday, who is the founder of Mindshift Foundation. They do bystander training, and they see sometimes that mining leaders have a lot of hesitance or even outright fear to ask people about their experiences. And we're talking about, safe and respectful workplaces. So the opposite of that would be discrimination and harassment and times when they have felt psychologically unsafe. And, she was saying that she has to work with them a lot to really brace them to say, yes, this might be difficult. It might be uncomfortable. You might see some things or experience some things that you don't like. And there is so much benefit on the other side of that, because then you've got the information, you're empowered to do something about it. You're connecting with the people that were experiencing that. And now they don't have to experience it alone, because you are now there for them and there with them,
For
because they were
sure.
always having that experience, whether you were there or not. Just now you're
That's right.
connected in a way you weren't.
That's right. And what I would say too, Erica, is I can remember, I think the biggest impact that I've seen is where, you know, at a specific mining site, they were midway on a project, first, you know, end of the first year in a 5-year project or second year. And when we started to go on site, I could see that there was a very standoffish. It was very, very clear. And if I can just paint the picture for a minute, you have to think about predominantly men working at a site where there's generations of generations in mining and the
Mm.
wealth of experience. And I can recall saying, how can I be designing programs for you know, for employees at the other end when I have no idea about these employees and what they like to do and how they think and what position they're in and all of these things. And I found that honestly, showing up, you know, authenticity, approaching it from a non-judgment point of view, I find all of these things, even if you recommend something, you're recommending solutions that are very applicable at the time, because now you know a little bit more. And even if that solution doesn't work out, it's okay to say, you know what, perhaps I've made a mistake. So you're taking ownership and accountability. And I think
Yeah.
all of those things buys you credibility. And I love to be able to help HR teams and organizations be able to feel what that impact, because it's a really sweet spot when you're starting to see evidence that your effort is turning to results.
That's great. Thank you so much for painting that picture, Pauline. I'm sure that HR professionals that are watching or are going to catch the replay are thinking about that and what that would feel like if they were able to enter into that space of positive collaboration and knowing that they're able to support the people that are doing that value-added work at the face of the mine. And thank you for bringing up the gender piece as well. I mean, HR professionals are a lot of women. Not all women, but right? And statistically speaking, the mining professionals that they're supporting tend to be mostly male. So how do you think that factors into this dynamic?
It definitely does. But when we're there shoulder to shoulder at the mine site, yes, but we're not doing the work of the miners. We're not pretending that we're doing the work of the miners. I don't know everything there is to know about mining and about their environment, but what I do know is the HR and the people side. And I'm here with clean hands and I'm here to get them dirty to help. And I think that when we stand shoulder to shoulder like that, I think when they realize that there's a trust and a bond that we're building, and we're willing to, to kind of say, yeah, I'm here to help and I'm here to roll up my sleeves. I think that makes a difference. You almost don't, the gender difference almost becomes a non-issue, if I can
Yes,
say that.
that resonates with my experience as well. Without taking up too much time, I can absolutely attest to that. And when you show up willing to learn and willing to say, you know your stuff, you are the experts there, and here's what I'm here to do for you. I find that really disarms people and helps create space for that positive trust building and collaboration, which is the name of the game, right? That's what we all want.
For sure. And we bring that back, and that's fine if you stay working at the corporate office. Of course, that's fine. Now it's time to bring all that knowledge and information back, and don't forget to go back to site. Don't forget to make it on the
Yeah.
regular rotation. But you can use that, back in the corporate office. You can use that to help tailor the initiatives, to help build the programs that are actually going to continue to support and catapult the company's vision, right, into the future.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pauline, so much for sharing some of
Thank
your
you.
expertise and your experience in elevating the role of HR, really integrating them into the business and help them take on a true partnership with the other functional areas. That's a really, really great story, really great thread to weave in. And yeah, it sounds like people should be dusting off their PPE and booking lots of flights and hotel rooms to get that travel to the site in.
The only way to understand it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pauline.
Thanks, everyone.